Chris, aka Mr. G. Welcome to my words for the week. I just needed to duck off. You saw the thumbnail. That was a picture from this morning after I'd woken up, and it's probably very appropriate for today's topic, which is overthinking. Now that my COVID curls are under control, let's dive into the topic. A few weeks ago, somebody came to me about overthinking and asked whether I had any tips for finding or hitting the off button. At first, I thought, okay, well, I don't really consider myself much of an overthinker, but am I really understanding it the right way? And the picture you saw this morning, or the one on the thumbnail, is actually after a week or 10 days where I've found myself caught up in my thoughts on a couple of particular topics that are important to me. And instead of rational, logical thoughts, what I find myself doing is going in a loop or a spiral. And over a period of time, this has really started to cost me some energy. As usual, when it comes to a topic, I tend to do a little bit of reading and research, and I talk to a few people, and out of that, what I'd like to do is share with you my insights and my 6 tips for overcoming the overthinking mind. So let's maybe start with a common understanding of what's going on. Overthinking quite logically starts with our thoughts. And our thoughts are incredibly powerful. Essentially, our reality, our whole real world, yours, mine, everybody, is based on their repeated thoughts. And you might ask yourself, well, okay, still not sure why they're so powerful. Well, the answer is easy. You, I, everybody applies what we believe to be true to our thoughts. We discard anything that we consider to be false, and we keep what we believe to be true. And so this truth for us is our set of beliefs about the way we work, others work, the way the world works. And so if you think about it, you might have come across that old saying, our thoughts become our words become our actions become our habits become our character becomes our destiny. That's how powerful it is. So behind those thoughts are what we as individuals believe to be true. Now, if you throw that into the pot with essentially our personalities, our character, the way that we use our emotional, cognitive, and physical energy all of the time. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? What could go wrong indeed? Well, it's not like what we believe to be true about the world is all sugar sweet and positive. In fact, a number of the things that we believe about ourselves, others, and the world are quite basically or essentially negative. We walk out the door on any given day and we see something funny, it makes us laugh. We see something kind and it makes us smile and feel warm inside. We walk outside and we get yelled at. And have no reason to know why. And all of a sudden, we've walked into a belief ambush. It's like we suddenly got hooked, triggered, if you will. And it's not like we let that go so quickly. The positive, we laugh, we may think about it later on, tell somebody about it, but something that triggers our negative emotion and brings up in us this negative mood is not something we let go of so easily, or not everybody lets go of it so easily. And a clinical psychologist, Dr. Nolan Hoeksema, coined the phrase rumination. Now, if you apply rumination to cows and their many stomachs, it's about chewing things over and over and over again. In psychology, the rumination refers to a method of coping with a negative mood that is based more on a self-focus. A self-focus and a passive and repetitive focus on the negative emotion. And when you are ruminating, it's like you walk around and you're thinking of all those things in the world that confirm this true but negative belief. And unfortunately, you might not stay in the present. What might happen as well is you think of all the times that it happened before when you could have and should have done something differently. So we now add the past to the present. But it doesn't stop there, does it? It's because when we think, okay, it happens to me now, it happened to me in the past, the likelihood of it happening in the future is there. It's the projection and the prediction of it continuing into the future. Now, all of this, it starts to be that loop, and we ruminate on it. And if we can't step out of it, we start to burn an enormous amount of energy in dealing with it. Remember, the energy is cognitive, it is emotional, and it is physical when it starts to feel like a weight that we're carrying. And all of this starts to wear us out, because the less energy you have to deal with this, the harder the struggle becomes to step out of the loop. So our true beliefs about the world may potentially be negative. We may get caught up in a belief ambush that triggers in us rumination. And then we're in that loop or spiral, burning up the energy that we would also potentially need to get us out of it. So what do we do? Well, this is where I'd like to give you my 6 tips on overcoming the overthinking mind. So as we dive into these tips, let me remind you what we're doing here is mental hygiene. If overthinking has been and is part of your general lifestyle and what you do, then this is for you. If, however, you know that it's more of a byproduct of something like depression or ongoing anxiety and you are working with a mental health professional, then keep doing that. This is mental hygiene, but follow along. You might find it really useful. So, tip number 1, accept the belief that overthinking is a habit that can be unlearned. Accept the belief that overthinking is a habit that can be unlearned. None of us are born as overthinkers. We learn to react to the world in a certain way. And remember what I said before, thoughts become words, become actions, become habits. So you can do something about it, but start with the belief, because that helps form your reality. That takes us to tip number 2. Set it as a goal. If you want to change the habit of overthinking, set it as a goal. Otherwise, it's just a wish. As a goal, it's going to require actions. It's going to require a sense of time. It's going to require measurable steps or outcomes so that you know that it's working for you. So if you want to change the habit of overthinking, then set it as a goal. That is now 2. Let's go to tip number 3. Tip number 3, get yourself a guide, a trusted guide, a coach, somebody who is used to working on changing mindsets. The reason I say this, and I had this tip last actually, but the reason I say this is quite simply that taking first steps can be hard. And not only can taking the first steps be hard, but once you get into it and the adrenaline and excitement that you're working on it is pretty much gone, the habit and the system that the habit lives in is going to fight back. It's going to be difficult. You're going to wonder whether you can do this. And guess what you're doing? Right now, you're locking yourself back into the rumination. So having a trusted guide as tip number 3 is a way to have that additional support. Tip number 4, and now the real work starts. Identify the beliefs that are triggering your overthinking and limiting you. Now, to identify the beliefs means that you're either going to be trying to get rid of them or replace them with something that is far more positive and empowering than the one that you currently have. And I say that this is real work because what you hold to be true about the world is not something you're making up now and on the spot. It's something that has come through your entire past, growing up, growing out into the world, and you are going to essentially, maybe with your trusted guide, go through all your different life zones, including the life zones of you being young. I'll explain what that means. So you go through life zones like family, your family growing up, your family now. Or you go through relationships, individual relationships that you had before, the relationships that you have now. You go through things like school, study, work, dealing with things like finance, personal dreams and visions. And every time you come up with a reason why something is or is not, essentially you're identifying a belief. And having somebody around to listen and capture what is potentially your overthinking trigger is very handy. So tip number 4, identify the beliefs that trigger your overthinking and that limit you, and replace these with empowering beliefs. And now to tip number 5. Make the invisible antagonist, enemy, visible. As you are identifying the beliefs, the things that trigger your negative emotions and your spiral, whether it be an action, a question, a statement, write it down. Keep a record of it somehow, in some way. Put it in your phone, send it as a message to someone or an email to yourself. Put it into a journal if you're writing every day. Look at how it's being framed by you, and you will see straight away why it immediately triggers that negative response and triggers the belief that goes with it. And having it visible in front of you means that you can reframe it. You can change the shape of that question from providing negative answers to providing positive solutions. You can change a negative statement to a positive affirmation and use it. So tip number 5, make the invisible visible so that you can work with it. And finally, tip number 6, because what we're talking about is more of a life journey, it's every day for the rest of your life, and you're dealing with beliefs and things that you believe to be true about your life and your world that you have accumulated since you were a child and growing up and growing out into the world. It's no surprise that you can't always be ready for it or strong. But what you can do is you can be more conscious about when it's happening to you. And to do that, tip number 6 is create a stop button. A stop button is a reminder for yourself of what is going on with you right now. When you feel that, oh, I'm sad, you know, some sort of negative reaction that in the past has led to more negative thoughts and potentially into that spiral or that loop of overthinking, you can stop it and go, no, I know what's going on here, and I know what I can do to stop myself from going down that path. Now, a stop button can be physical. Some of my clients have things like something on their bracelet, a necklace, something in their pocket, a reminder on their desk at work, or at home, you know, somewhere in an environment where things might happen more frequently. And seeing it or feeling it and holding it is a way for them of saying like, no, I know what's going on and I know which way I've got to go. Other people create little mantras for themselves, things that they can say, like a positive affirmation, a positive statement that they can remind themselves of. I believe that this is not going to harm me. I believe that I can deal with this positively. Yeah? Something that reminds them that they're in control. Others use other people. I am sometimes a stop button for people. They will text me, message me, call me, send me an email, something that says, at this time, this is what went on. So maybe the next time that we catch up or chat, we can talk about this. And again, it's a conscious reaction to what's going on. And if you notice that each time I talked about one of these versions, the stop button was associated with some sort of an action. And taking that action is like taking a positive step to dealing with the situation instead of slipping into a negative mindset. So with number 6, set a stop button. Attach an action to the button that you create. So those were my 6 tips on overcoming the overthinking mind. Number 1 is believe that overthinking is a habit that can be unlearned. Number 2, set the goal of unlearning this habit. Number 3, quite simply, get yourself some help. Get a guide, get a coach, get a counselor, get somebody who knows how they can work on this with you. Number 4, identify the beliefs that trigger you and limit you and change those. Number 5, make the invisible visible, the invisible antagonist visible. Once it's down in front of you, you will see that you can deal with this. It's not just running around your head anymore. You can deal with it. And number 6, set a stop button, a button that you can use to live a more conscious life and to be more conscious of the way you react to the world. I'm Chris, aka Mr. G. Those were my 6 tips on overcoming the overthinking mind. These were my words for the week. Have a great week. See you again soon. Bye.